Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today we are going to be talking about Hedera Hashgraph. Now, I wasn't going to put this video out until next week, but we have lots more Hedera content to come for you in the following week, along with covering a plethora of different cryptocurrencies. We have a lot of content coming out next week, lots of important content that we think retail investors should be aware of. So I really wanted to get a video out today talking about some pretty big news and things that have been happening with Hedera in regards to their representation. And I want to start off by really sort of reiterating my views that I think Hedera is going to play a fundamental role in the digital renaissance that is taking place in regards to the tokenization of real world assets. And we're going to be focusing on that in this video. We're going to start the video off by looking at Shane Higdon's recent appearance at the New York Stock Exchange in regards to exactly this, the tokenization of real world assets. And then we're going to be going over to a clip, a very recent clip of Duncan Moyer, a senior over at Aberdeen, which is the largest hedge fund in the United Kingdom. Something that really encouraged me when I was looking into Hedera was the governing council, which is often a very sticky or a very controversial thing when it comes to Hedera. You know, they've took a very different approach to the kind of origins of blockchain, if you will, or distributed ledger technology, whereas, you know, Satoshi kind of released it to the public and had the public be the validators and kind of runners of the network. Hedera's actually started with a lot smaller and more institutional grade of validators, with plans in the future to move on to, or to get to a stage where you actually end up with anybody, permissionless nodes being a thing. So they've kind of took perhaps a bit of a back to front approach. Because we do now see companies actually going on and look to mine Bitcoin and run stake pools, like Google, for example, in certain networks, whereas Hedera's kind of gone to them first and then is looking to decentralize later on down the line. So Aberdeen is one of those governing council members. We have done videos on the governing council previously, and we've shared our thoughts on it. Again, it's a very controversial thing and people have their own opinions on it, and that's absolutely fine, guys. You know, the world would be a very boring place if we all thought the same thing, and that's not a world that I want to champion. So we encourage alternative thinking and even criticism to the views that I hold. I don't actually think that this is a bad thing, the governing council. Certainly if one of your main aims is a blockchain, a distributed ledger, because Hedera is a DAG, which is a very interesting technology, is to be adopted by institutions. What better sort of comfort blanket do you have than to have the actual network itself ran by those institutions? And actually this works out very well for people like the likes of Aberdeen. So we are going to be looking at a clip. We've got a few clips. The first clip is going to be of Shane actually talking about him going to the New York Stock Exchange, which of course has already happened yesterday. And then we're going to move on to a clip from a recent panel with Duncan Moyer actually talking about his visions and what he's trying to do with Aberdeen and some of the markets that there is. And actually he says something very interesting when he talks about actual funds or products that hedge funds can offer being traded on the likes of even DEXs. And he sees this almost as like the future or a real unlock in regards to liquidity for the future. So we have a lot to get into as always, but I want to start the video off with the sort of New York Stock Exchange news. And again, I didn't really finish this point off. This is the reason why I think Hedera is going to play such a role in the tokenization of everything, and that's because they already are. They have some of the biggest partnerships when it comes to doing exactly that, like Aberdeen tokenizing their money markets with Hedera, and we've seen a lot of the other council members like Dell, you know, you name it, actually look to integrate Hedera into their systems. And we're going to see a lot more of that as we progress. But let's start off with the New York Stock Exchange news. Recently, there was a sort of conference between lots of members within Hedera. And of course, this individual here, which is Shane Higdon, essentially mentioned the fact that he was going to focus on growing revenue for the Hedera network. And he was going to do this by attracting institutional investors. And of course, this has taken place. So this was an older clip. I think it was a week or so old. And then, of course, he actually did the talk at the New York Stock Exchange literally the other day. So let's go ahead and play that clip of him talking about it. And then we're going to move on to Duncan Moyer and what he had to say at a recent sort of panel in regards to the transformative nature of digital assets. And of course, he brings up Hedera.
So now we're focused on how do we generate and grow revenue. The second thing that I think we're doing from an initiative perspective is focusing now and going into next year on the institutional investor. We have created a relationship with a company called The Tie. And The Tie is, think of it as a Bloomberg terminal for digital assets. They're supporting HBAR. I will be presenting November 3rd in New York at the New York Stock Exchange to a room of 400 plus institutional investors. We are, focusing clearly on that segment of the market that's, largely tokenizing real world assets.
Very interesting. And again, I do want to reiterate that Hedera, in my opinion, is really driving institutional adoption of this space. Hedera is not a blockchain. We actually think that Hedera's technology is extremely interesting. This concept of DAGs is largely unexplored. And, we're all used to this kind of linear blockchain system, where you have what most of this space is essentially built on is a linear blockchain where you've got blocks going along, they're timestamped, they're sealed, they contain transactions, and it's a very linear system that occasionally breaks off every now and then comes back into the one chain. Hedera's kind of it's almost like a pile of blocks that fits together and that can be made sense of. And there's a lot of unique trade-offs that offers. So that's very interesting. That, of course, has taken place. The next thing I want to move on to in regards to Hedera really pioneering the sort of institutional adoption of the space is, of course, Duncan Moyer. Now, Duncan Moyer is one of the seniors over at Aberdeen. Aberdeen, we actually did an article on it over at allincrypto.com. By the way, guys, if you haven't checked out our website yet, we've created somewhere that you guys can use and utilize. Not only do we provide you with the latest and greatest things happening in the crypto space on a daily basis, we've also essentially created a better version of CoinMarketCap, where you can come and check out your favorite cryptos, favorite them, and get a lot more information, including Twitter feeds and everything in between on them. But if we look at, the sort of initial relationship to go into it, if we just type in Hedera over on our search bar, it'll bring up some of the articles that we've done on it. You can see this was one of the first articles we did on Hedera, which looks at Hedera and the UK's largest asset manager. And this, of course, is Duncan here. Aberdeen is the largest asset manager in the United Kingdom, investing in real estate, private markets, fixed income, and equities. In 2022, they generated $1.4 billion in turnover last year and a profit of $263 million. On October the 6th, 2022, Aberdeen, of course, joined the Governing Council. In this article, we'll explore the relationship. I'll leave a link to this in the description for anybody who's unfamiliar with it, guys. But essentially, you had Duncan Moyer feature on CCDAS, so CC Data, to talk all about digital assets. This was an 8-hour-long thing. I've watched quite a bit of it. Of course, he wasn't on there for 8 hours, but he was one of the speakers. You've got RChex as well there, which are also utilizing Hedera. Let's go over and let's take a look at what Duncan actually had to say in regards to all this, what's happening and what he's looking at moving forward into the future.
Debate with tokenization is permissionless versus private chains. Mostly we've seen bigger institutions, traditional institutions, get involved in the private side of things. It's something that they can control. But we're now starting to see some move on to networks like Ethereum. I mean, Duncan at Aberdeen, where are you at in that level of comfort? Are you happy going fully permissionless, or is it still a journey for you?
Yeah, so we made a decision at the start when we started this that the future would be on public blockchain, and so that's we started working with Hedera Hashgraph, but it's a public permissioned deal. It's a DLT. So for us, that was the right mix of having giving the public part, giving the potential scale in the future, but having a governance framework that we felt would resonate really well with, well, our risk committees and board, and the groups that we were going to interact with. So that's the kind of area that we want to be in. But yeah, I mean, in the future, I think with the right safeguards, permissionless could be it. I would love to see our funds tokenized and traded through a DEX, because if you look at traditional finance, retail increasingly makes up a bigger proportion of assets traded, and I think that world, like decentralized exchanges work very well with individual investors. And if you want to have the biggest scale and potential for your offerings, this is where we need that. That's an additional part of liquidity that will make it a reality. We just need to have the right kind of controls in place to make sure we can do it within regulation.
Pretty amazing what's going on. Again, to sort of echo my opening statement, I do think Hedera is going to play a significant role in the renaissance that's taking place. Everything's going to be tokenized. Why do I think Hedera is going to be a leader in that? Well, it's because they already are, and I expect that to continue. They already are with the likes of the largest asset manager in the United Kingdom and many others, and they're now featuring at the New York Stock Exchange, and everything in between. It's very exciting. This whole concept of DAGs is a bit of an evolution, perhaps, for distributed ledgers. It offers unique trade-offs, and we're going to continue to bring you content that highlights that on a regular basis. So if you have enjoyed this content, guys, a like is always greatly appreciated. So is a comment, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.